Sweet. All right, this is the Humans of Grappling podcast. Thank you. We have the Pankration philosopher on this second episode, first time with somebody. So welcome on board.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Good to be here. My name is Pocholo Cruz.
Oh, I didn't give you a full introduction. I just assumed that
the people should know who I am. Pankration philosopher,
right?
Host of Pankration Philosophy podcast. But this is now I'm here on Humans of Grappling podcast.
Right.
It's great to be here.
Great. Where did Pankration philosophy come from?
That's a great question, Mike. So it actually began the first MMA school I went to was it was a kickboxing and pankration school. So I was like, what the hell is pankration?
Right.
And then, common question. So what pankration is, it's the ancient Greek art. It was a combination of essentially boxing and wrestling, one of the first hybrid sports.
Nice.
And if you look at it, it's pretty much just like what modern day, well, not quite modern day MMA, but similar to it.
Gotcha.
And I think kind of to the death, but just depending.
I mean, you guys didn't train that to the death. I mean, you're still here, so clearly you're pretty good at it.
Oh yeah, no, that's how the Greeks trained it back in the day. I mean, well, just like how a marathon was done because someone ran 26.2 miles and then passed out,
right,
and then died.
Exactly.
So hopefully now, when you run a marathon, you don't die. So same thing now,
right,
in terms of that.
Exactly. So what? So when did you start doing that?
Let's see. I started that when I was like about 15, 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Dope.
yeah.
So.
And it actually arose because because I started wrestling when I was in middle school.
Oh,
so I was
sweet.
about like 11 or 12 years old.
Okay. Dope.
And then I had no idea really what like MMA was. Okay, so how I found out about MMA or about this school that I first went to.
Yeah.
It's I was supposed to fight somebody from school. It was an Australian exchange student.
Okay.
And he had
and he trained there.
Yes, exactly.
He's an exchange student, exactly. He knows where
but he's like, I know MMA, and I train at. Dropped this school's name. I was like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, but I can mess you up.
Okay.
I was like, cool. I was like, so then my great plan was showing my age here, but I was like, I looked up in the phone book what this school was, and I found I took the bus there because I must have been 15 because I had no car. I took the bus there, and my great plan was I was going to jump this kid in the parking lot
with his teammates.
Right
there. Okay.
I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely how it's going to go down.
Right.
And so I'm at the front of this place. It must have been, it was like after school, it's probably about 4 p.m., but the place wasn't open yet.
Yeah.
And then one of the instructors, like, to open it, like, roll by, he's like, are you a student here?
Yeah.
And I go, yes, I am. I am now. And then that's how I started going to that. That's how I started, like, MMA through, fighting an Australian exchange student. So.
Did you eventually fight him?
No, he actually never trained there. So,
really?
But
okay.
I had I did my first day, and I was just it was my eyes were open to. I was like, oh well, this is definitely a lot more different than what I thought it was.
Right. And
I had, because I had done wrestling, and actually I also done a little bit of boxing as well. So I was like, oh, this boxing is definitely different when you have to wrestle somebody, and this wrestling is definitely different when someone's like hitting you. So I was like, wow, this is I can definitely see myself doing this. And then let's see, about like 16 years later, I'm still there. So or still doing the thing. But thanks to you Australian exchange student, wherever you are, maybe you're back down under,
right?
So thank you, Crocodile Dundee Jr.
Awesome. Yeah. Interesting. Where'd you what'd you do, boxing, or what started it first, boxing or wrestling?
I started boxing because I started boxing in the Philippines. Like, my grandfathers were both into boxing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
so I was about real young. I think I was like 5 years.
Irresponsibly young to start boxing.
Irresponsibly young in modern eyes. But like, what, he could walk? Why isn't he punching anything?
Right, yeah.
What is the meaning of this?
I see.
So, I started, but then my I think I did it for like a couple years. But essentially when you're like 5 or 6, they're essentially sock and boppers that you have on you.
Right.
But my mom made me stop because it's dangerous, and don't want you getting too involved in those in those combat sports. Who knows what might happen?
Right.
So,
exactly.
Very successful in doing that. Don't worry, Mom. Nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, and then I wrestled afterwards, and what pretty much what prompted that was. So I grew up in the Philippines, in Manila, and then my family moved to the States. And when we moved here, I was like, well, I definitely want to do a sport that's like individual and combat based. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then someone mentioned like wrestling, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea what wrestling was, other than, I was like, I could hit someone with a steel chair. And then I looked and I was like, oh, this is a little different, but I like this. This is cool.
Right.
And then, that's how I started like wrestling in middle school. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
That's cool. That's good to start young, to like get you on that straight and narrow path.
Oh yeah, definitely. Didn't get me on the straight and narrow at first, since I was jumping Australian exchanges, but it eventually did. It definitely.
It's an eventual.
An eventual straightening. Just like how when you're like tuning a guitar, it's like, oh, this is out of tune, but we'll just
we'll go a little bit the other way.
Yeah, we'll just keep working on it. Yeah, the biggest thing was Yeah, it was MMA and Bible study was the biggest thing.
Okay, gotcha.
That did it.
I see.
Yeah, but not in the way that you would think.
Sure.
This is becoming like this is pretty much my stand-up comedy routine. Oh. But so how
you're giving away your bits now.
I'm giving away my bits. It's okay. The bits were never that good. I haven't done any bits in a while. But I found MMA the normal way through Jesus. But he didn't tap her, so I heard. That's what the brand tells me.
Right.
But okay, so a little backstep. Before I was jumping Australian,
sure,
Australian high school, Australian exchange high school students. What I was doing, so my mom, I think before high school, so I think I was 14, like maybe 14, 15, was like, oh, well, hey, let's put you in something with some other youth. You seem to not be like getting along at school. And by that means I was surprisingly starting trouble in school. So I was like, all right, cool. What's the situation, or what's your solution? So she put me in a Bible study, a camp for the summer. And what that did, it was pretty much directed towards, so this is in the Seattle area. This is pretty much directed towards like mainly Filipinos. Like you didn't have to be Filipino, but it was mainly Filipinos that did it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so now I'm here in this like Bible study camp that wasn't really jiving with. So then you have to think about it too. Like what kind of people are typically found to either really like the Bible already, or they're kind of troublesome youths.
Sure.
So we just kind of grouped up as troublesome youths, and then what we did, exactly,
you identified each other.
Yeah. What we found, it's like Pokemon, where we like locked eyes and we're like, you're
here.
I know why you're. I know why you're here.
Right.
So what the grand? Okay. Looking back, I was like, man, how did they not see this coming? So. Okay, it was a camp of like about a week, and then what happened afterwards is that they would have like weekly, pretty much prayer study meetings on a Friday night, because there's nothing else happens on Friday night. But what it was is that it typically was like at a church or like at one of the people's houses. But instead, what we did is like, I'll go down there. I'll go down to the to the Bibles or to there, or I would say I would. Yeah. But really, me and the other troublesome youths would just go out and probably mostly street fight. Just studying that Bible,
just fighting for Jesus.
Just fighting for Jesus. Yep. Yeah, just hitting those books hard and hitting the other gang members harder.
Right.
Yep.
So you had a lot of self-defense.
Yes. I had a lot of self-defense applications, because I knew, I was like, oh man, this wrestling thing, this is really effective on the streets. And then I was like, wow, apparently, because I already thought, because I did some boxing beforehand, I was like, oh wow. And then apparently it's really easy to like, because wrestling no one's trying to hit you.
Sure.
But then I figured, oh wow, if someone like swings at me, it's even easier to double leg them.
Right.
And then yeah, exactly. So then the gears were turning in my head already. So I was like, oh yeah. But then of course, like once I found like an MMA gym, I was like, oh well, this is actually a lot more. I found like a lot more science like into it, and then that kind of that eventually got, I don't know, really straight and narrow. I was like, oh well, I could do this a lot better. If I just,
I'm much more effective at beating up.
Exactly. I looked at it. Well, that was like my initial thing. But then I was like, well, what's even the point of like beating up people on the streets? And then, that's how I eventually wavered out.
When there's a gym full of people who are willing to do it every day.
Exactly. Well, every day. Because beforehand, I was just doing the Dragon Ball Z model of like, well, if clearly the biggest way is I just need to fight stronger and stronger people. And I was like, well, I found there's a whole like a compound of all these strong people, so why don't I just like stay there?
Right. Exactly. So cool. Yeah, that's great. So I guess this is more of a maybe not outside the box question, but like what does grappling mean to you, or martial arts or whatever?
Got it.
Like what is it? So given all this context,
given my martial arts context, So looking at it now, what it means to me, it is an art form. It's an art form of expression, and I look at it as it's a physical expression, and I look at it like a physical debate. That's how So I say point, counterpoint, and then just showcasing skills and. So I look at it both as a very mental and physical exercise. Yeah. Like for me now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think look at it at the time. Well, yes, maybe. Problem.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. I get into, I don't know. I think of it in terms of like software and like programming, and not like super literally like that, but like.
But relating to.
It's like the techniques that you learn is the software running on the hardware, and your body can,
hardware being the body,
your body can like carry you to whatever, carry out the instructions of the software. And I feel like it's, I don't know, it something about the progression of it, because you like start off like sucking, like you like start off like
very bad,
ground zero, like you have nothing.
Hello world,
hello world, and you eventually like build up, and you like add one thing at a time, and that's kind of how I do software. Is like I change one line at a time, and you like you can when you start off you can only like add one line at a time, versus like as you get more experience, you can add entire like sequences and like concepts, and you can like add more and more complex things without necessarily like drilling them even. So I feel like that's I don't know. Yeah, what it is an expression.
Yeah, an expression. It can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be, and then I think that's a beautiful thing about it, too. And also it's unique to each person, as well.
Definitely.
I mean, there's definitely some basic basic general concepts, but like your expression of grappling is to be different from another person's expression of grappling, and just like any kind of art form, it's unique as a fingerprint. So no one grapples quite as you you.
You're
philosophizing.
Are you calling everybody snowflakes?
Yes, like unique ass snowflakes. Consider you all triggered,
right? Awesome. So given like your background and stuff like that, what is your day job that funds your MMA and
that funds MMA? Yes,
all that.
Yeah, so I'm in sales.
You're in sales. Okay.
Yes. Normal. Actually, no. The more I look at sales, the more I really see the connection, because I know this is what the connection between that, because pretty much the skill set of that and the building of the skill set. Really relates to like martial arts. And, like to me, and it's funny because this recent sales position has been I've acquired it because the person that runs the company, like I met him through training, like back in Seattle. So he's
Oh,
like,
really?
he's like, yeah, exactly. So,
Is he down here or is he?
no,
or
so it's remote.
Oh, okay,
yeah, exactly.
gotcha.
So it's Logic Inbound.
All right.
Logic Inbound. It's a full stack marketing like SEO like company. So through there, but the skill set of sales is so interesting just because. I mean, just like anything, you have to keep practicing it, or you're bad at it.
Sure.
And even if you're as like an excellent like salesperson, let's say you're a black belt in sales, you can still, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a sale.
Sure.
In terms of that, so I mean, of course, it's related. Like the better your skill set is, the more in turn sales. But if you're not on, if you're not feeling well, it comes in highs and lows, just like anything.
Sure.
And then
you have to like perform like
Exactly.
when the lights are on. Like
Exactly.
like it's when the customer's staring you in the face, their checkbook's in their pocket.
Yes.
You have to convince them to pull it out and
Exactly.
write you a fat check.
Yeah, it's convincing. And the more I look at it, it's not even necessarily like convincing. I look at it as like influencing. So
Sure.
that's why I kind of see the parallels in terms of grappling, where you're influencing like another person to give you a submission.
Sure.
Because pretty much, I mean, force is great.
Yeah.
But really, the more you force something,
Yeah.
the more difficult it
Sure.
becomes
Yeah.
more of a struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas you see like the most skilled like practitioners, they kind of make their opponents make their own mistakes. They're like, the opponent's like, oh no, how did I end up here? Like,
Right.
how did I buy this car?
Like, I just looked
Yeah.
up and I got the keys somehow.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. It's like the most like I guess the most elegant form of art is when you're not even aware it's happening.
Sure.
And that's the same
Yeah.
way I look at sales, just like the same way I look at grappling or any kind of fighting.
Right. Somebody hits a slick whatever takedown to guard pass to, since we're 10th Planet and
Yeah.
train under Coach Casey, to a side choke.
So- yeah,
You,
yeah.
like they don't even know what happened.
Exactly.
Right?
A man
So-
of culture.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
the slickest sequence you can think of. Like there's an equivalent of that in sales. Like
Yes.
it's just the smooth talking But like smooth talking in terms of like he makes you feel comfortable. Like you don't even feel like you're being sold. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the way I call it, it's like frictionless.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to be pretty much. You don't want. I mean, you don't want it to be combative. I look at it as collaborative, and that's
Sure.
the same way I kind of look at.
You're
I look at grappling to
collaborating.
collaborate. We're collaborating towards your defeats.
Yeah,
See, we're
exactly.
teamwork.
Yeah.
You see, we're working with each other here.
They work for each other.
Yeah,
The more
yeah,
they-
Yeah, and that kind of gives me like a good, like, I was like, oh yeah, kind of, because I see those parallels, and that makes me kind of think about and then in terms of relates back to the grappling, I was like, oh yeah, I can be a lot more slicker, I guess convincing, collaborative,
Yeah.
as one could say, in terms of that, and then I can see those parallels, and then I can of course take that same way into learning sales and get into that. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you say friction because friction is like I don't know. I haven't coined this yet, or I haven't put this out into the universe.
Humans of Grappling exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Friction is the fundamental force of grappling.
Okay.
If we could not grab onto each other, like if there's no friction for me, like we would just just slide off each other and like never do anything to each other, right? Or
it's
we
like
would
trying to jump with no gravity.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm just
Like
going.
if there was no friction on the ground, we wouldn't be able to push off the ground into each other, right? Like that. So friction is the reason why we have grappling. So it's the manipulation of friction.
Got it.
To achieve your ends,
Got it.
whatever you're trying to do. So like, so that's when it's so jarring. The absence of friction, say when the mats are wet,
Yeah.
and it's just
Or your
it's
opponent's
swampy,
wet. Yeah,
or
yeah.
your opponent's
Yeah,
fucking slippery,
yeah.
and it's 80 cc, and you take off your rash guard, and
Yeah.
like you're slipping and sliding, and then that's why it's like that much more difficult because there's
for sure.
less friction.
It's very and that's the thing too. It's like getting that control when there's less friction, especially
Sure.
if you're more used to like a friction kind of based game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's essentially it's like you're drifting.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of cars, it's like
Yeah.
you're used to like the tight turns, but now like, oh no, my tires don't have grip, and now I'm sliding. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting concept.
But the idea of like your sales friction, like you want friction, you want some amount of friction, you want them to be interested.
Yeah,
you want to
exactly.
grab them, or they grab you. Even better. It's like they're
hey,
coming.
I want this.
They're coming to you and saying, "Hey, I think I need your service," or whatever.
Yeah.
So you want them to a foothold.
Exactly.
Or like
You want a hook.
Climbing is also is wall grappling.
Yeah,
it's like your
friction's
important there too.
You're grappling the wall. Yeah, if you don't have any friction on the wall, that's bad. That's bad news for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and I think that's interesting too. Yeah, because it's like you want just enough friction, but you don't want enough friction it's holding you down, or you're unable to get anywhere. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's and that's another thing too, just like the balance. I feel like that's another important thing, like both in that the balance in terms of grappling, and then also the balance in terms of sales.
Yeah.
Like the key thing, like from me in both, is that I need to be like grounded and in a set, not necessarily like mood, but I can't be too pretty much I can't get too like agitated. Like I don't want to be like thrown like off balance, because that's when you make mistakes or when you get sloppy.
Sure.
Like they're both in grappling and in sales.
Right. Like what's the I mean, submission is probably like the sale, right? Closing the sale, right?
Yeah.
So like is there any other like cross terminology or likening things to other things?
Yeah, I would say probably. So when I look at sales, there's like a script, or what to say.
Yeah,
I say that's very similar to like techniques and just understanding.
Yeah, you're drilling techniques.
Exactly, you're drilling because you're drilling what to say, just like how you need to drill what to do.
Sure.
When you're grappling, and then of course there's specific, let's say like objections or objection handling. That's like specific counters to what
counters to your techniques.
Exactly,
okay.
Counters to techniques. So that's the way I say it. Like and then another thing too, just in terms of practicing, I think of like an amateur practices a technique until they get it right. A professional does it until they can't get it wrong.
Damn.
So I think that's
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So in terms of that, just because you get something right once, okay, it's like cool, but like the real mark of it is if it's it's impossible for you. Like just like think about if you like any task that you do, like constantly, consistently get the repetitions. Like you'd have to physically think about not tying your shoes like properly. Or you have to physically think about not brushing your teeth.
Yep.
Like brush, I don't know, the opposite side.
Sure. Right. Brush your whatever cheek or whatever. Right.
Brushing your cheek rather than your teeth.
Or putting in your phone code wrong.
Yes.
Like or put in my password. Sometimes like my computer passwords is like it's just muscle memory. I'm like, what is it again? It's like buried down into there.
Exactly. Like your hand knows knows where the keystrokes are. Like there. It's like it's become and that's the thing too, because now it's become ingrained. It's like ingrained in your nervous system.
Sure.
Just like how you don't need to think anymore. You're reacting.
Yep.
And that's the thing, because if you're thinking, you're moving too slow.
Yeah. And you're having a conversation with somebody in front of you, or on Zoom or whatever. You don't have that much time to like,
no.
Let me look at my script and see what the
next. What do I say? It's just like the same way how in a movie the actors, they memorize the script because and that's the thing. The reason they're professional is because you're not supposed to believe that. I mean, you're supposed to believe that they are that character. Yeah. Like if it was like, oh, wait, whoa, hey, what's that line again?
Right.
Pause.
Yeah. If they put all the outtakes in there, and they edit it down and make it super tight to make it believable.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how I see like sales. Yeah, like scripts, objections, and then just understanding. But then also flow, just understanding like that. Like okay, what they typically say, what are you typically going to say? But then also understanding, okay, if they're throwing something different at you, then you have to react like accordingly. You can't just like, well, do the same thing.
I'm just gonna plow through.
Yeah, just gonna keep plowing through. It's like being able to adjust on the fly.
Yeah,
I think is another thing, and that's of course depends on, because each setting is like a unique kind of situation, right?
Sure.
Because every person is going to talk slightly different, just like how every person is going to move slightly different.
Sure.
So you're still doing really what works for you, but you're just slightly adjusting it depending on who your partner is, whether it's in sales or in grappling. Yeah.
Verbal jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
Yeah. I see.
And that's another thing, because I think people call it like verbal judo, just being able to use the other person's like momentum, like there. But yeah, it's very, and that's another thing too. Just I feel like that push-pull concept in terms of that. Whereas, if you try to pull somebody, they're not actually going to pull it.
They're going to pull away. They're
going to pull back.
Yeah.
And just if you push somebody, they're not going to push you back. So I think of those like kind of dynamic opposites. Like just like in grappling, if I do the opposite, the person is going to do the opposite. So that's, if anything, that's kind of dictating them to do there.
Sure.
Same thing on how, when I'm talking to somebody, I have to, like thinking moves ahead, like I have to have an idea of where it's leading to, not just be like, oh wow, can't believe you said that. And when I was like, when I've seen the sequence happen like all these times, so you see these patterns and the usual ways that they go, and then you get like a sense of that, sense of like, okay, like during this pattern, this is typically when people do there, so I'm ready for that. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's interesting. That's really interesting. What's like I don't know. Do you have a signature technique?
Let's see, signature technique. No, nothing really signature technique. I'd say probably more just general concepts in terms of that. I'd say in sales, the biggest thing is just listening, and it's being listening, and I'd say mirroring, just being able to empathy, like being able to understand where people are coming from, because then you understand. Pretty much, the more you understand the person you're talking to, the easier it is to sell to them, because you understand like they're
giving you the answers. Yeah,
exactly. They're giving you the answers, and that's and back in grappling, it's like, the more you understand about how someone moves or what they're doing or what their thought pattern is, then the easier it is, just in terms of getting better control or getting better position, because then you're like, okay, I can kind of get a sense that this person's moving this way, so I'll move this way to influence that.
Right.
So,
there, I'm going up against a leg locker. I'm gonna be aware of like anytime he tries to sit back into honey hole or something like that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've seen it before, like, well, this person's moved like this already. So if I see that once, and then understanding, okay, well, they might do it again, or they may influence there, or they may chain it to there and there, and then more information, just like more information you have about the person that's your partner, the easier it gets in terms of knowing where to move or how to or what to say in this case.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Where how'd you get into sales? How long? I guess how long have you been doing it? And how'd you get into it?
So let's see. I've been doing sales. It's going on like year 3 now.
Okay.
And the way it started was back in Seattle. The let's see. I was working at a restaurant beforehand, and what happened is COVID happened, and all the restaurants like shut down. And I was like, well, damn, what am I gonna do? Like, what's something that's still open? And one of my trading partners, he happens to be a manager at an Audi dealership, over there. It's like, yeah, man, we're hiring.
Oh wow.
We're hiring, and then people are still buying cars, because even though everyone's still working from home, think about it, there's not really that much public transportation, and people still need to get around.
Sure.
So I was like, we're like selling so many cars at the dealership, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I never really thought about sales, but I don't really know if this is for me. And he's like, yeah, just how about just try it and then see what happens. And then I did. I went in, try to see what happens, and then So once again, that was the first sales job I got with martial arts.
Right.
Yeah. And it was great, because my manager also trained, and he would like relate it all like to me, but he was also just a great, one, he was a great salesperson. He was a great teacher, and he taught me a lot just in terms of sales and the way that it's, just the way it related like for him, and just studied and yeah, it was cool because now I saw firsthand both the mental and the mental and the physical like preparation of it, and yeah, it really helped me in terms of that growth, and I guess lucky it led to my next sales position now. So
right,
yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
And what is there like a similar? I don't know. I mean, yeah, of course you don't get ranked in like, but you get like top salesperson at the whatever dealership,
or top salesperson at the company.
So there's like there is levels to the game, but is there like a mentorship, or is it like a every man for himself kind of thing?
That's the thing. I think it can definitely be an every man for himself kind of thing.
Person,
every person, however you identify as.
Yeah, right.
But for every salesperson. But the way I look at it, just like I found like it was best when just being collaborative or being in a team kind of effort, because I really liked, since I was fairly new, I just like practicing. I just like practicing sales with like other like newer salespeople. I actually ended up at this dealership that I started at. I hired on like probably 3 or 4 of my friends that also trained.
Oh, okay.
And then onto there, and then we would just talk, training, and then also sales, and then I just ended up helping them become better salespeople. And then, because that's cool, because as you know, when you teach something, you also learn it better as well. So that's what I found. I was like, oh well, if I help other people, I also raise my own skill in doing so. So I found it always helpful, just in terms of sharing, and that's the same thing in my current position now. Is my my boss, he's not necessarily like classically trained in sales, but he did when his company was small, he was the one that did all the sales.
He was the sales. He was head of sales.
He was head of sales because he was the one guy doing the sales. And he's like, I just want to help you succeed, so I want to give you all the information that I have to make you more successful, and then in essence, that's what's making the company more successful.
Sure. Yeah.
And he had good vision for that. I was I totally agree with that, because I feel like the more it's once again a more collaborative effort, and that's what teaching is. It's you being able to influence someone else's like skill set, because it has to be tailored like for them. And that's the way I always look at in terms of teaching too. Just like you can only really, you're guiding somebody, you can give them knowledge, but it's not your knowledge. And because they have to take it, how it works for them, because they have to do their own interpretation, right? Yeah. Unless you're like, you can't physically make, well, I guess you can physically make someone write something, but it's not their
it has to come from your neurons, however it's represented in your brain. You put it into the shared medium of like of English, and then they take it in, and then they have to rewire it in their thought patterns.
Exactly. It's like they have to translate the code. Into like whatever, and how they understand it. Exactly. Just like back into language thing. Like we all can draw like an English A, but like my A is gonna be slightly different than that other person's A, because it's all unique to their fingerprint there. Yeah. So just like it's unique to their handwriting, and then it just gets more and more complex as you go scope out. Like, right. So yeah.
Dang. Let's see. So how do you enjoy sales? You enjoy doing it? Like, it seems like you're in it. Like, I do. This is your second or third. Like, you did Audi in Seattle, Audi here, and then now you're doing that.
Yeah, now I'm doing sales here. It's like, and that's the thing. Yeah, flashback to like me. I was like, I don't even know if I would do sales, but now that it's I'm definitely in it now, and just because of, I guess, the challenge of it, like, for sure, and then just the way I can see it relates to, I guess, my martial arts expression. Yeah. And in a way that I never quite thought that it would, but and I really also, another thing that I enjoy is just the constant challenge of it too. Sure. It's not, because if anything, like, victory or success is never guaranteed. Sure. So it makes me have to be like my best self, like every day. And then of course that means, losing or failing or not doing well. But because I'm so used to that in the other thing I do, I'm like, oh,
Sure.
well, this is another opportunity to get better. And I kind of, I don't know, I guess become a masochist, I guess, for that kind of mental pain. And I think maybe that's one thing that's made me, I guess, successful in sales, because I've definitely seen some people that don't necessarily like it. And just because I think that is the biggest thing. It's like, it's definitely irritating, or it can
So
get,
much failure.
Yes, because there's an immense amount. Oh, that's another. Yeah, an immense amount of failure.
Yeah.
Like, if you've never done it before, you will suck, and it's
Yeah.
just that. It's just how it goes. But it was easy for me. Like, oh yeah, I definitely remember sucking at something.
Yeah.
Until I did enough repetitions to get better at it. But even if I'm, quote unquote, now better at that thing, there can still come a time when I just, oh wow, I know nothing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
about this thing. But that's what makes it interesting, because that means, oh, there's even more to learn and even more to know about that. So I guess the constant resilience and then the constant learning is the biggest thing that I enjoy about sales, which is what keeps me in it.
Sure. That's cool. You can never be too good at sales.
Exactly. You can not like, that's it.
That's
I've learned everything there is to know about sales.
Yeah.
Just like you can't say, that's it. I've learned everything there is to know about grappling.
Yeah.
Nothing else about grappling will ever come into this knowledge. So yeah.
I see you and raise you one buggy choke or whatever other crazy shit's coming out. Right?
Exactly, because it is like it's a limitless kind of thing, just because there's so many other ways of expressing it.
Yeah.
Just like when it comes to language, or I guess people's thought patterns. It's like what's working now may not work 2 years from now, just because circumstances may change, people think differently. Yeah, the markets change. There's so many different factors. Just like the same way in terms of grappling, right? Like the grappling environment, weather, could totally change. Whether it's like schools of thought have different, maybe recent trends. Yeah, like you mentioned the buggy choke. Like, oh, it's all the rage now.
Right.
And
yeah.
Meanwhile, we can look at it 10 years ago. Yes, that was the year when the buggy choke was discovered, or something like that. Right. It can come in ebbs and waves, or like, oh yeah, it's when leg locks came back, and then it's all cycling, just like any kind of art form. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's and they both are to steal a Joe Rogan quote here is marketplace of ideas. All these have marketplaces of okay, let's figure out what the best thing to do is. Like jiu-jitsu is okay, this buggy choke thing seems kind of useful if you can get there. Yes. Right. Yes. Like people pass your side control or get to side control. Oh, now you have an attack from there. Yeah. Like that's a Uno reverse card. Yeah. Gotcha.
Trap card activated.
Right, exactly. Or sales is we're heading into a recession, and that might change some things.
Yeah, might change some things, and also sales practices also change as well. Yeah, because you think of I guess past generations, there was the pushy kind of car salesperson or door
coffees for closers.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas especially nowadays, that's not that's I mean, there's some elements that may still work, but that's not how you close people nowadays. Because I'd say the biggest difference that's changed is just the amount of resources and the amount of choices that people have. Sure. So let's say 40 years ago, back in the 80s, how many you couldn't buy a car online. You couldn't look up online to look at what other what other cars were around in the area. There was no internet. Sure. You pretty much, your information was a lot more limited. Yep. So now that there's more and more information, there's more and more choices for a consumer to go to, which then changes the marketplace in terms of that. And whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter if you look at it that way. What matters is that the marketplace has permanently changed. You can't just all of a sudden well, what if we'll just shut down the internet? That's not the way. That's like saying well, what if we just don't do leg locks?
Right. Exactly.
You can't say, we'll just make this illegal. Don't do buggy chokes. That's not how the marketplace works. Right. So that's true. It's just a fact. So you just have to get over that and then become better in terms of that. So whatever changes, whether it's a recession, whether it's however the marketplace changes, you have to adapt, and that's what the best do. The best have to adapt and change and get better, because it's always ever changing. Because what's the best right now will not necessarily be the best 5 years from now.
Yeah. I mean, that's
a fact of life.
Yeah, that's evolution,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Natural selection, survival of the fittest. It's the fitness of relating to current conditions, right? Like how good are you at adapting to this particular set of circumstances?
Yeah.
Which is going to change. Like
Exactly.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, because it's like an ever-evolving meta.
Right.
That.
Yeah. Awesome. And we kind of went over all the carryover between grappling and your profession. Cool. Anything else that you wanted to plug or
Let's see.
talk about or
Plug in? I guess I can plug. Yeah, if you like hearing my voice, you probably never heard it before, but you might have heard it on Pankration Philosophy. And let's see. I just enjoy what you can find on Pankration Philosophy. Very similar to this, just people talking about martial arts and how it relates. And mainly, I talk to martial artists. And yeah, I just enjoy the martial arts in terms of that. So.
Do you have any fights or matches coming up or anything like that?
No matches coming up, but I'm recently like getting over an illness, but see. But see, that's the thing. It's like, once again, in terms of the ebbs and flows, because you can almost get tired of competition, but then like once you don't have it anymore, you're like, right. Oh man, I got it. I got to get my fix. You get that itch. So nothing right now. So of course, like now I'm wanting, to get into competitions. So nothing coming up at the moment, but definitely like something in the future. And thanks, Humans of Grappling.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. We out.